Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're tackling something absolutely crucial for anyone in the hobby, finding the perfect aquarium maintenance professional. Choosing the right pro is, hands down, the single fastest way to protect your fish's health, keep their stress levels down, and ensure your whole ecosystem is just thriving. But, and this is a big but, outsourcing this incredibly delicate work takes a lot more than just a quick Google search. You really aren't just hiring a glass cleaner here. You are essentially hiring a specialized ecologist for your indoor ecosystem.
So let's get right into it. I want you to ask yourself a question. Is your current maintenance provider actually protecting your tank? It's super important to realize that not all service providers are going to handle your tank with the exact same level of care. I mean, you're handing over a fragile living ecosystem to a stranger, right? So, to make sure you're actually protecting that setup, we're going to walk through a foolproof vetting toolkit. This is going to help you cut through the noise and find a true qualified professional. All right, here's the hiring checklist we'll be using today. First, we'll cover verifying system-specific expertise. Second, demanding transparency. Third, tools and replacement policies. And fourth, emergencies and liability. Let's jump in and break down exactly how to make sure your tank is in safe hands. Starting off with step one, verify system-specific expertise. Because let's be real, not all tanks are created equal. You absolutely have to start by confirming that the company has direct, concrete experience with your specific type of aquarium. Whether you're running a freshwater tank, a marine setup, a reef system planted, whatever it is, you need proof they know it. A massive red flag to watch out for is if a candidate describes their routine in really general terms. That's kind of like a mechanic who says they just fix cars but can't tell you how to check the oil. What you're looking for, your green flag, is a provider who can clearly and explicitly explain their exact process for testing water quality. If they stumble on how they assess water parameters, yeah, you need to look elsewhere. For sure. It's actually kind of fascinating just how specialized this knowledge has to be based on your setup. A pro who works on systems exactly like yours is going to anticipate things like algae blooms or cycling instability way before they become disasters. For instance, if you have a marine or reef tank, their staff needs to be intimately familiar with tracking salinity, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, nitrate, phosphate, and pH. And they need to be able to tell you how those specific readings actually guide their next steps. On the flip side, if you've got a planted tank, your pro has to deeply understand nutrient balance, CO2 dosing, and extremely precise lighting schedules. Okay, moving right along to step two, demand transparency. This covers the scope of their work, the frequency of the visits, and the expected outcomes. Any true professional company should clearly define exactly what they're going to do during every single visit. Depending on your tank size, your stocking, and your filtration, you really should be asking them for an explicit list of expected services. Are they doing partial water changes? What exactly is their process for substrate and filter media care? They definitely need to be handling the basics, like cleaning the glass and checking the temperature, but they should also be stepping up with higher-level stuff, like feeding guidance and proactive equipment troubleshooting. They have to cover all these bases so your maintenance is actually consistent. So, what this really boils down to is accountability. The best providers don't just do the work. They show you exactly what done looks like. It is a huge red flag if a provider avoids sharing measurable outcomes or just totally brushes off how they report their results. The green flag here is a pro who hands you documented water test results, leaves specific notes on how your animals are behaving, and gives you a clear action plan if parameters start to drift. Honestly, vague promises are not going to save your fish when a sudden ammonia spike hits. All right, let's get into step three, tools and replacement policies. The quality of your maintenance relies heavily on consistent procedures and the actual hardware they bring to the table. You really shouldn't be afraid to interrogate them a little bit about their gear. Having accurate testing equipment is completely non-negotiable. Just ask them outright, hey, what test kits or digital meters are you using? Ask how often they test those key parameters we talked about earlier. And, crucially, ask if they provide those results in writing after every single visit. You want to be 100% certain that they are relying on precise, hard metrics and not just eyeballing the water and guessing. And when it comes to replacing parts, a highly reliable company is going to use a very strict four-step workflow. They aren't just going to swap things out and casually hand you a surprise bill later. No way. When dealing with consumables like filter media, mechanical cartridges, or dosing parts, they will first measure the actual performance. Step two, they recommend a replacement based purely on that performance. Again, zero guesswork. Step three, they communicate the plan and the exact cost to you upfront. And finally, step four, they never ever act without getting your explicit approval first. Which brings us to our fourth and final step, emergencies and liability. Basically, we have to talk about what happens when things go wrong because, let's face it, in this hobby, it's rarely a matter of if, but when. Look, before you sign your name on any contract, you've got to confirm the physical access logistics. How are they actually getting into your house? What's their protocol for pet-safe entry? I mean, you definitely don't want your dog or cat slipping out the front door while they're hauling buckets of water inside. Get the lock codes, the keys, and the exact scheduling windows ironed out so there are absolutely zero surprises.
But you also really need to know what happens between those scheduled visits if a disaster strikes. Aquarium chemistry is incredibly delicate. In a saltwater system, something as simple as a heater failure can literally crash your entire ecosystem in just a few hours. So you have to ask them about their specific emergency response plans for things like power outages, major leaks, or rapid water quality drops.
And hey, even the absolute best technicians rely on equipment that can just unexpectedly fail. So verifying accountability is a must. You need to ask who is held responsible if equipment damage happens during a service visit. Make sure you understand their cancellation policies inside and out. And most importantly, verify that they carry appropriate insurance. Because unless you want to be the one financially on the hook for a 100-gallon puddle ruining your living room floor, having clear rules about liability is completely non-negotiable.
So right before you lock yourself into a massive long-term commitment, I highly recommend running through these final safety checks. First, request references or reviews that are specifically tied to their aquarium maintenance work. Next, try to book a trial visit or maybe just a short-term plan. During those first couple of weeks, vigorously evaluate them. Check their punctuality, pay attention to their communication and documentation habits, and obviously monitor the actual health of your tank. When you actually find the right company, the upkeep of your aquarium completely transforms. It goes from being this constant source of anxiety to a really calm, predictable routine. Our source material sums it up perfectly. Treat your tank like a living system, not a routine chore. And honestly, that is the exact mindset your hired professional needs to have. I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on the next time you're gazing into your beautiful, fragile ecosystem. Is your tank in the hands of a true professional or just a routine chore worker? Take the tools and the questions we went over today, demand transparency, and protect your aquatic life. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you secure the absolute best care for your indoor ecosystem.